If we were to offer something now to somebody who resonates with each of those foundational principles, our thoughts, our attitude, our breathing, our hydration, our nutrition, how we move, and of course, sleep and rest, what would be one action item that you could give somebody in each of those foundational principles that they could start doing right now that we know is going to make a massive difference to their experience?
Well, the first thing we'll start with is thinking, because thoughts ultimately are what choices are the product of. If you're not thinking, you're not choosing. So the first thing that I do with everyone is I help them establish what a dream is. And a dream is a word I use for goal, objective, or motive. So dream includes your goal, your objective, or your motive for making a change. And I found right away, if a person's dream is not more motivating to them than their challenges, in other words, if their dream's not more inspiring than their nightmare, then they don't make changes. They just complain all the time, but nothing happens. So the function of thinking is first oriented around a dream. What is your primary objective, and how can I support you in doing that? And then I work with them to orient their thinking to be dream affirmative. So oftentimes they state that they want to do this, but then you'll see that their languaging is actually antagonistic to the dream. So I develop techniques to get their mind harmonized with their dream. So the first step for thinking is have a dream. Have a dream bigger than your challenge, or you're not likely to change. Breathing, very, very simply, just put one hand on your belly, one hand on your chest, and remember that the first 2/3 of the breath should come from expansion of the belly, and the last 1/3 should come from the chest. Otherwise, the diaphragm's not working properly. So it's just take a breath, get the first 2/3 from your belly, and then just let the last come from your chest, and then just let go. That keeps the system working properly, and since the diaphragm is one of the chief biological pumps that moves fluids through your body, it is a major, major supporter in keeping the body healthy. And when you consider that the average person takes 25,900 breaths a day, if you're doing it ineffectively, that's a huge energy deficit. So just that one tip can significantly enhance respiratory volume, which produces a lot more energy, mental clarity, and that gives people the energy to make the change. Movement. My tip for movement is to remember this: the best exercise in the world is the one you're willing to do every day. So choose something that you enjoy doing. If it's walking a dog, great. If it's riding a bike, great. If it's going out to the golf course and swinging your golf club and playing a few holes, great. You know, yes, I could get very, very technical, but the truth of the matter is only about 8% of the males and 3% of the females worldwide do any regularly scheduled exercise, including walking a dog. So I feel people need a minimum of 20, but ideally 30 minutes of movement a day. And so my tip is choose anything that you're willing to do. Even if you want to vacuum the house, put on some good music and get a groove going, that could work. So, you know, I think it's important for people to remember, you don't always have to go outside and make an appointment to do exercise. There's lots of things that we can do. You can, like I said, clean your house. You can clean your garage. You can go out and do some gardening, as long as it's legitimately active, and that will work. So we've covered the dream, we've covered the breathing, we've covered movement. Now we have to look at nutrition. A simple tip for nutrition is remember you are what you eat. We turn over every single cell in our body on average in 1 year, including the cells in your teeth. So you're literally making yourself out of what you're eating. So my advice on food is always go for certified organic food and buy the highest quality food you can, and that will give you the most energy and the most nutrition, because on average, solid research shows that real organic food is about 4 times more nutritious than commercially farmed food. So when you look at all the surgeries and all the vitamins and all the supplements people are using, it's mostly to compensate for bad food. So the tip for food is eat the best food you can possibly get. I tell people if you have to sell your car, buy a cheaper car, or ride a bicycle so you can eat good food, do it, because you'll be around a long time. But if you don't do that, you'll have a fancy car that you drive to doctors and therapists all day long, and you'll spend far more money on drugs and doctors than you ever would have on food. So that's my nutrition trip. Hydration. Drink half your body weight in ounces of water a day. Ideally, quality water. There's all sorts of information about what quality water is in my book, and there's resources for that, but drinking even tap water. If a person does not have the money to buy Evian or bottled water, they can go to a camping store and get a water bottle that has a nice filter in it, and you can just put tap water in there, and that alone will significantly enhance the biochemistry of the body. We've got to remember there's 6 billion biochemical reactions a second in the human body, all of which are water dependent. If a person gets low on water, they're in a very, very dangerous physiological situation, and since so much in the body and in the mind is water dependent, being low on water is really like begging for trouble. Okay?
Let me
Cheers.
have a drink of water to that.
Yeah. Sleep. The average human being, in my experience, needs 8 hours of sleep at night. And there are many that think they don't. And I've had a lot of them as patients. Businessmen, people that go to seminars where they're told that you don't need that much sleep, and if you want to be successful, you got to work 60 or 80 hours a week. So we got this whole culture that is totally disconnected themselves from the fact that sleep is essential and that sleep needs to be done in a cycle that is governed by the harmonics of the sun and the moon and, natural cycles. So getting to bed, ideally having your head on the pillow by 10:30 and rising with the sun is ideal. If a person cannot follow that due to shift work or whatever, then my strongest advice is get 8 hours of real sleep every night until proven otherwise. There is so much disease and so much fatigue oriented around the situation of a lack of sleep that if a person, remember, sleep is free and it's easy. So no one can complain, oh, it's too hard. I don't have time to do that like they do with exercise. You got to get to bed and rest your body. And another concept with regard to sleep that I think is very important is people forget that you don't get stronger while you're exercising. You break your body down while you're exercising. You actually get stronger while you're resting. So for the athletic people out there, they keep thinking more is better without realizing more means more and more breakdown. But sleep is where your mind goes into a complete state of relaxation. So earlier I mentioned how energy consumptive the brain was. So now what we have is a situation where when you go to sleep, the brain shuts off. So the cells of the body have all the resources that they need to repair themselves. And as long as you're awake, that doesn't happen. Your body's in competition with the brain, and the brain's always going to win because that's what you use to keep yourself alive. You got to know not to drive off the road or cut yourself with a knife. So the brain becomes the focus of energy expense once it's on. But once you go to sleep, everything calms down and the body can actually repair itself more effectively. So in a nutshell, 8 hours of sleep at night is critical.